Is there a company out there that has risen to be the gold standard that is doing this better than anyone else, or are we still? Is there so much work that needs to be done that nobody has yet?
No, I mean it's an ever growing process, but there's people that are doing it well. ADP does a good job. Deanne Green was here. She was a local leader here, and then she went on to be the organization wide diversity, equity, and inclusion person. Cox is doing a really good job. There's a lot of organizations that are doing well, and it's not always just large businesses. Who is it? It was an organization now. Howard Hogue with the Mariners Museum doing a great job
What's
because
what's something? Great job. I get it. What's
yeah,
something specific that they're doing that is making them have your perception of them doing a great job? Like what? Because I think people hear, "Oh, ADP is doing great." Well, the perception that someone else might be hearing is that
they're not.
there's something else. So what? Give me an example of one of those three companies from a specific standpoint that they're doing that is making them above and beyond the others.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Mariners Museum, Howard always will share that he's a really big servant leader. So what he did was he understood that there were stories for the Mariners Museum that they weren't being shared. There were people there were minorities that had done so much for the museum, had basically built the museum from the foundation up that weren't being shared. And what he did was he had a meeting with the staff and said, "Look, we have to share these stories. We have to show that our demographics, the people in our community, are people that build this museum, and a lot of their stories aren't being shared." We saw it with Katherine Johnson and NASA. But what Howard did was, how can we make sure that we are inclusive, not only with our staffing, but with our community? So what he did was he looked around his community and said, "Hey, we don't have the people coming in that we'd like to see." So he took that approach and said, "We're going to change what the charge is to come into the museum." He asked people. He went out and had those conversations, and he said, "What would it take to get you guys in here to see this great museum? Look at the changes we're making. Look at the different leaders, the untold stories that we're now telling in this museum." And he went from, I think it was a $15 charge to a $1 charge to go in the museum, because people were saying, "Hey, we're out here, and some of us, we can't afford that $15. It's just not feasible." And to some people, $15 seems meager, but you talk to somebody that's losing their business in COVID, and they can't pay their person $15 to stay on their staff. So he went and said, "We're going to change the way we operate. We're going to do it by changing the cover charge to come into the museum." And he's bringing in more revenue and seeing more people, not so much with COVID, but he said that revenue and people, the foot traffic in the museum is going up, even though he took the pricing down, and he changed those stories of people that did so much and built so much. So what he did was, Howard internally expanded that culture story that's been told in the Mariners Museum to attract different audiences, and the community loves him for it, and they're continuing to grow now.